Hey everyone. Well, this is it. As you can see, I'm wearing just a white shirt with gray stripes. You know, since my last Asian month review, I was getting really tired of wearing that white shirt, so I should wore something that's more dressed. So I found this white shirt with some gray stripes on it. Get out of here. Anyway, and I'm no longer wearing my Doctor Who outfit because this review is not going to be a sci-fi Asian movie. So this time, I'm going to review something for you. Now, this one is a Japanese anthology series. And it's a horror story, a horror series of anthologies. And furthermore... Oh no, not him!
Hello, kitties. It's your pal, the Crypt Keeper, and I have returned once again.
Crypt Keeper!
What?
Why the heck are you doing showing up in my show? I told you, you're no longer a host. That's the thing. When I had the Crypt Keeper as a guest host during the review of Tales from the Crypt, he decided to pop up. Now, what the heck are you doing here?
Well, since you said that you're gonna review an anthology series, I decided to show up and be the ghost of the day. So, what is this anthology series that you're gonna review?
Well, Crypt Keeper, since you decided to be here, here we go, folks. Our review for you today is this one. Dark Tales of Japan.
Dark Tales from Japan? Why, I never host anything foreign since the final season of Tales from the Crypt, where everybody were British at the time.
Well, believe it or not, this is an anthology series full of Japanese short stories. And surprisingly, the host of this show Ain't No Ghoul.
Ain't no ghoul? Then who is the spooky host of this anthology series?
Well, believe it or not, it's hosted by a Japanese old lady.
A Japanese old lady? Then what's the picture of that Japanese doll doing on the cover?
Oh yeah, you're right. There is a picture of a Japanese doll. Well, the point was, she only made an appearance when the old lady showed up and found a doll of a little girl. You see, this anthology series is what got me hooked to the Japanese horror genre. And no kung fu or giant monsters involved. Can't stress that enough. Anyway, this one has been directed by 5 Japanese directors.
5 Japanese directors? That's true. All of my Tales from the Crypt shows were directed by different directors. Heck, I even have Arnold Schwarzenegger being a director on one of my episodes.
Seriously? You had Arnold Schwarzenegger as a director on one of your shows?
Oh yes, it was the one about the old man who wants to be young because he falls in love with the girl who's old enough to be his grandfather. Old enough to be his granddaughter, actually. And he was trying to teach me how to, pump some iron.
Yeah, and I bet he thought of you as nothing but the little girly pants. No.
Don't you ever do that again. Well, continue on in your review, but I just sit around just like the audience here, just sitting around and listen. So, creeps, you better listen to his review.
Oh, shut up and just sit down. Anyway, folks, let's get to the review, shall we? You see, it's hosted by an old lady, and it all started with this old lady who gets picked up by a bus driver who is driving his bus. And the only thing she says, now bear in mind, this is in Japanese, so you better read the subtitles. There's no dub. You know, folks, you should start watching Japanese movies with subtitles. It's a lot better than the dub, because sometimes voice actors who do the dub, some of them are not that good. Like I saw one Korean movie where a guy who was doing the dubbing for one character, he was talking with a southern accent. It was weird. But I watched this movie with subtitles, and I read their lyrics. Anyway, there was an old lady who told the driver, "Would you like to hear a scary story?" And the bus driver was getting a little freaked out about it, but he was like, "Sure." And then she starts telling the story, and then she shows this doll, and then this is when it started. Now, the first story in this show is called Spider-Woman. And no, I'm not talking about the Marvel comic book superhero Spider-Woman. I'm talking about a supernatural, because the Japanese, they do have a lot of supernatural monsters in their stories, including the mythologies. I mean, heck, I heard a story about a slit-mouthed woman who goes after you with a pair of sharp scissors, asking you, "Do you think I'm pretty?" But that story is not in this. So, if you want me to review that one, all in good time. But anyway, Spider-Woman, they're trying to make it like some kind of a Bigfoot thing. Like, people think, does a Bigfoot exist or not? But in Japan, they have the Spider-Woman. It's kind of odd, you think? India's full of snakes. I mean, there are certain countries that have a lot of snakes around, while there are other countries have a lot of spiders. I think I'm better off with a country full of snakes than a country full of spiders. Although I would hate the heat, too. Anyway, according to the Spider-Woman story, it's about this guy who works in the supernatural magazines, who is getting a lot of fan letters and letters of eyewitnesses who talks about the Spider-Woman. Says how the legend goes, there was a woman who was so horrified with spiders that one time she did kill one spider by swatting it with her newspaper, and then she found another spider, and she decided to burn it out with a match. And then all of a sudden, when she was asleep, she was bitten by the spider, but the weird thing happened. She didn't got radioactive blood like Spider-Man did when he got bitten by a spider. To her, she transformed into a Spider-Woman. All of a sudden, she starts growing extra arms and extra legs, so now she has four arms and 4 legs. And of course, her eyes starts getting black, and now they start popping up on her forehead. And one creepy thing, they said that a group of people went into a restaurant, and they met this woman who ordered a bowl of noodles. And after she was done eating, the sun went down. The sun went down, and then something weird happened. They start seeing something pointing, coming out of her back. And that's when all these arms and legs starts coming out of her back. And then she just walked out of here, all 4 hands and all 4 legs, creeping out the customers. But no, it was a Spider-Woman. And they say that the Spider-Woman can kill men. You see, the Spider-Woman had this sticky substance put on their foot, so their foot will be stuck to the floor so they won't get out of here. And then they'll spin web on their hands. And then they'll be wrapped in the web and be bitten and sucked by the Spider Woman. And one of the legends say that if you say wolf spider, oh no, not wolf spider, spider wasp. If you say spider wasp to the wasp woman, I mean to the spider woman, she'll leave because spider wasps are mortal enemies to the spiders. I didn't know that wasps eat spiders. Although I do hate their stingers, those wasps, but they don't freak me out. Anyway, this reporter, he starts to discover that he's living... There's an eyewitness who is traumatized by what she saw, and every time he's trying to get an exclusive from her, she keeps talking really, really fast. And then he figured out he's in an apartment room with a Spider Woman, and her daughter is one, and found his friend wrapped up in a web going like, "Leave me alone, you're freaking me out, I don't like this, leave me alone." And, well, I'm trying not to bring out some spoilers in this, but at the end, the guy gets bitten by the Spider Woman, and now a group of teenagers drove by and they saw him turn into a Spider-Man. And he's all full body, four legs and a spider tail, going after them. Now this other story here is called, well, can't pronounce it, but this one was really creepy. I mean, compared to the Spider Woman, this one really did freak me out. It's about this guy who went into this apartment who used to have been owned by his best friend. And as he went into the apartment, he discovered the entire room was covered with orange duct tape. But he just didn't cover up the entire room. He just covered up all the corners, the edges, the shadows, just taped everything. And he was wondering why, and him and the manager had them all removed. Until he starts watching a video that his friend made. It turns out there's a ghost living in the apartment. And what she does, she hides in the corners. She hides in corners, in cracked open spaces and houses. And her hands always keeps coming out. And after he noticed that his friend was captured by the ghost and was pulled into the corners, somehow mysteriously the ghost unplugged the TV. And as he was about ready to reach to the corner, bang! It just grabs his hand, wouldn't let go, and as he pushed it away, he had handprints on his arm. And as he was looking around, he sees her hands just coming out of the corners and each edges. So it got him all scared. So what he did, he started doing the same thing his friend did. Taped each and every corner and every area throughout the house. Until he finally realized there was an open drawer where all the tapes were at. And as he was about ready to reach into that tape, she grabbed him. And that was it. Now this one, I have to say, this one was pretty interesting. This one is called Sacrifice. Now this one is about a girl who was chatting with her friend. She asked him, how did it go between her and her date? And it's the head employee of her job. She said he was really weird. And he was very off. I mean, he was less romantic and all. And her friend told her, you better watch out what you said, because the last date he had, she quit, and they never saw her again. And then all of a sudden, she discovered that she's being cursed. And she also figured out that the guy she was dating, he cursed her. Now that's freaking dumb. That is stupid. I mean, that is unexcusable. I mean, I've been rejected by girls myself, but I never cursed them. That is the most horrible thing to do. It's just like that thing I said on my A Christmas Story review, where the guy always kept sniffing that girl's hair. I gotta say, that is awkward. I mean, when I was in high school and there was a girl I like, I never sniffed their hair. I do sniff their perfume. Sometimes I get a whiff of their perfume, and then I tell them they smell great. And they say thanks, and that was good. And if I get rejected by a girl, I don't curse her. I just respect her wishes and let her meet someone else. If it's not me, she's happier being with someone else. And that's cool. But him, I mean, he just went way off. I mean, honestly, if I met that guy face to face, I'd do this. Hey, you. Come here. Come here. Let me tell you something.
That's for cursing your dates! Jackie!
Anyway, this one is pretty shocking in this story. You see, the girl starts getting cursed, and she starts bearing a mark on her arm and on her ceiling. So she quit her job and went home, and noticing that her mother was praying to her ancestors. She has her shrine of her ancestors, and she kept praying and praying and praying and praying. In the middle of the night, guess what she sees? A giant head standing next to her. And throughout the entire story, she figured out her mother is she's praying to the gods to sacrifice herself in order to spare her daughter. So, that's what happened. She sacrificed herself. Her daughter is cured. And the guy who cursed her, he died. Good riddance, if you ask me. Good riddance. I don't need scum like him in my area. And one thing that's really creepy that she noticed, she saw her mother sacrificing herself to that big head, and as he opens his eyes, dozens of pupils start showing in his eyes. Whew, that was creepy. Now to the next story. Now this one is directed by the same guy who did my favorite Japanese horror films I really do like. Yuan, aka Grudge, and Yuan 2, aka The Grudge 2. Yeah, he directed the Grudge movie, and he directed this. This one is called Blonde. Cowardin. Blonde Cowardin. And this one's a good one. Oh, after the sacrifice story, there's the old lady who meets this nervous guy. He's so shaky and nervous, and she walked up to him and said, "Would you like to hear a scary story?" The old lady said. And then he starts telling the story, pretty much similar to his story. And then and it turns out the reason why he was all shaky because there's a ghost of a girl who won't leave him alone, and she's sitting in the way back of the bus. Sitting in the way back of the bus and starts shaking the seat right in front of her. So the old lady, she walked up to the ghost and say, "Hey, would you like to hear a scary story?" And then the ghost girl disappeared. And now to the blonde. This one was really silly and ludicrous. This one's about a Japanese guy who is completely drunk, all because he's going to America. And after getting drunk and ending up in California, USA, he just got all excited, going like, "Hi, Hollywood, USA, USA, USA." And then all of a sudden he found something that really excited him. Blonde-haired women. This guy loves blondes. Him and 20 million other foreign guys. Not me, actually. I like girls with long, dark hair. That's my taste. I don't think much on blondes. Anyway, this guy's going all crazy over blondes. I mean, going like, oh, blonde, natural blondes, 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 blondes. Oh, beautiful, lovely blondes. Man, he should get over it. Sure, California is full of beautiful blondes, so what? Anyway, the reason why he came to America is because there's this big Hollywood producer who wants him to house sit his apartment. So, he started living in his apartment and keep getting drunk again by finding his liquor. So, he kept getting drunk, drinking some wine, drinking some scotch, until he got so drunk that he went all sleepy, so he fell asleep in the producer's bed. Little did he know, here's a shocker. When it was getting dark, he fell down on the ground, and all of a sudden he found something that caught his hand. It was a streak of blonde hair on his hand, and he was like, ugh! And as he accidentally took the lamp down and it was landing on the ground, it showed a dead blonde woman under the bed. It's going like, ah, ah. And as he shut off the lights and about ready to pack his stuff, all of a sudden he looked up, and there was like, I mean, the bed was completely decorated with blonde hair, and out comes this blonde-headed ghost staring at him. Well, this guy asked for a blonde, so they gave him one. A dead one. And then to the final story. Oh, this one was a real dizzy here. Now, hang on a sec. Nothing. Anyway, this one starts out. There is this guy. He was working in this office building, and he decided to do a little sabotage. He started downloading some vital information of his job. Now, that would cost him his job and also life imprisonment. What he did, he just, he started skinning money off his business. I guess he was like an accountant or something. And he wanted to get out of here before the camera starts noticing him. So he finally got out of there, got out of his office area, and he got into this elevator. And then all of a sudden, there was an elderly couple and a young lady who was like in her 30s, just standing, staring at him. And he was pressing the button to the lobby, and all of a sudden the elevator got stuck. And now this elderly couple and this woman starts freaking him out. And as he keeps getting phone calls, he also asked an elderly woman, do they have a cell phone? They were like, no. And then she asked this young lady, saying, come on, you're a young lady, you're in your 30s, surely you were able to have a cell phone. And she said, no. And then security office starts calling him, and he was like, yeah, we're all here. And he said, we're? And he said, yeah, me and an elderly couple and a young lady. And he said, sir, I only see you. Now he's getting freaked out. And he thinks those ghosts are there to punish him, so he starts showing him all the things that he stole. and he was starting to panic. He was just shaking, jumping like a jelly bean. And also banging on the door, going like, "Let me out!" Until all of a sudden, a group of security guys, they finally opened the door and got him out. And he just ran. Oh yeah, and he also had a phone call from his girlfriend. It turns out he has a wife and daughter, but he was also cheating on his wife. And his mistress said, "If you won't come here by 5 minutes, I will shoot myself." So he was trying to run as quick as he can. And as he sat down to calm himself, he saw the elderly couple and young woman again. And a waitress shows up saying, "Hi, can I help you?" And he said, "Do you see those people over there?" And she said, "Oh, the one across the street?" And he was like, "No, straight ahead." And she was like, "I don't see anything, sir." And then she walked off. Now, for those of you who wants to know, this elderly couple and this young woman, they're tourists. And what are they tourists of? You see, I guess, Mr. Death, the Grim Reaper himself, he's a tour guide for the other ghosts. And what he does is shows them people's death. So I guess the Grim Reaper has to do an extra job. Do some odd jobs. I wonder, did Mr. Death ever done that? Take some dead people with him, show them other people die. Anyway, he finally showed them how this guy's gonna die. Turns out the wires that was holding a bunch of iron beams snapped, and one of the beams just hits him in the face and died. And then he said, "Well, that's..." And the Grim Reaper says, "Well, that's the end of the tour. Right this way." And the old lady says, "Oh, is there a woman who gonna commit suicide by shooting herself?" And the Grim Reaper says, "Nah, she ain't gonna kill herself. She's gonna die at 49 with her children's and her grandchildren's with her." Now, that gave me the inspiration for Mr. Death. Because in this show, Mr. Death is just a Japanese guy who wears an all-black suit with no tie, white gloves, and a bowler hat. That's what gave me the idea of Mr. Death's look, except with a purple shirt, and I couldn't find any white gloves, so I found gray, and just slapped the mask on just to show what he is. And I don't have a bowler, I just have a fedora. I wish I have a bowler hat. Anyway, he told the ghost, "Right this way, move along, time to go." But as the young girl, she stood right in front of the dead guy, and she said, "Too bad. I was once a lover with somebody, and I told him I would commit suicide. And sadly," and she removed her hat and showed a bullet hole in her head. And then she walked off with the elderly couple and the Grim Reaper. And then it showed the guy just gets up, his soul gets out of his body, and walked off with them. And then the whole thing ended with the old lady walking up to a little girl and says, "Hey there, little girl, would you like to hear a scary story?" And the little girl says, "Why, yes, I would." And she said, "Aren't you going to be very, very scared?" And she said, "No, I like scary stories." And the bus driver staring at them through his rearview mirror. And then the old lady starts mentioning something about a bus accident. And then, happened. The bus crashed. And that was the end of Dark Tales from Japan. Now, I don't know about you, but I love this show. I mean, I watch this show constantly. It gives me inspiration for some of my horror stories I was working on. And also, it got me into the Japanese horror genre. If I haven't seen this, I wouldn't be into the Ringu, aka The Ring, and The Grudge. Now, for some of you who are wondering when am I going to review The Grudge and The Ring, in due time. And if I'm going to be too late reviewing them, they'll always be next June. So, for any of you who likes this review, well, Crypt Keeper, what do you think?
Well, I gotta say, they are different. They're not like my tales from the Crypt study, but they are very good. Now, for those of you who like this review, please leave a comment.
Crypt Keeper!
Let him say it. Drat. Anyway, this is a Crypt Keeper telling you all goodbye. Till next time, boils and ghouls.
Crypt Keeper. Well, like he said, if any of you love this review, please leave a comment down below, hit like, subscribe, and I might review some more. And, I might return with some more Asian review coming soon. And at the end of June, on July, I'm just going to bring back my science fiction reviews. Because there's a lot more sci-fi I want to review. Oh, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, I got a treat for you folks, and I think you guys gonna like it. Next Sunday, not this Sunday coming up, but next Sunday, it's gonna be something magical involved. So, Tulu. Oh, and for the Japanese, Origato.